Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Grandmaster Shaymin, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be going back into a little wrestling. It's been a little while since I've done one of these reviews, but I sat down to watch this show, and I'm like, you know what? Might as well just sit down and talk about it like I had done at one point. So if you're hyped, click that thumbs up button down below for me because you already know your support's greatly appreciated. And leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on Extreme Rules. But this show was pretty garbage. Okay, as kind of expected, I went into this expecting like probably a 2.5 star pay-per-view, and that's pretty much exactly what we got. So in the kickoff show, we had two matches: Sin Cara versus Andrade Cien Almas, and New Day versus Sanity in the tables match. Now, Sin Cara versus Andrade was absolute trash. Considering Andrade has such a good history as a wrestler, and what he did in NXT was absolutely amazing. Every single match at every single pay-per-view was unbelievable, and it's not that much of a surprise to see someone who's still relatively new get put on the pre-show. But this wasn't even his best match with Sin Cara. I mean, this was a not even really a SmackDown Live opening card match. Like, this was absolute garbage. There was no really big parts of the match. There wasn't anything really going on. Honestly, it was absolutely horrendous in my opinion. I mean, compared to matches that Andrade had, I mean, it was barely considered a match that I'd see on free live TV, which, of course, this was free live TV, so I suppose. New Day versus Sanity wasn't all that bad. For a pre-show match, it was pretty decent. You had two spots. You had the ending spot with um, the shot off the rope, putting Kofi through the table, and then you had the shot where the double power bomb with the stomp off the top rope. That those two were pretty decent. Other than that, there was nothing really noteworthy to go on in the match, so there wasn't a whole hell of a lot there, in my opinion. Um, I mean, it's your basic pre-show stuff. Not to mention this is the first time I've actually watched the pre-show since WrestleMania, and I I had almost forgot how bad the pre-show is. I almost didn't want to watch it. I was tempted to sit down and play some more of my visual novel that I'm playing through. But I was like, you know what, whatever. I need to eat some food before the match. Might as well throw it on my computer. And God, the panel is absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Booker T just his commentary is so bad, and oh my goodness, I just everything about it was so bad. Dolph Ziggler's little promo was complete trash. Like, really, he didn't add anything to his character that we didn't have already. And not to mention, Dolph Ziggler is kind of like bland. He's worn out his welcome. His character that he's had since 2011 is the exact same thing. The exact same thing, and it doesn't work anymore, and it's becoming a massive problem for Dolph Ziggler and getting me to think that Dolph Ziggler's legitimate, and it even happened in the match tonight, which we'll get to later. So really, there was nothing really too noteworthy on the pre-show, other than god awful commentary that I don't even want to begin to discuss. You guys know how horrible the commentary is on that. But then we go into the actual card, and we started off with a match that was all right. It was probably about 3 stars, a pretty decent match where the Deleters of Worlds took on the B team, and much to my surprise, the B team actually won the match. I thought this was just going to be a tied over until they could get some other team like the Authors of Pain up to fight the Deleters of Worlds. That's what I was thinking. Especially considering, AOP, this overpowered team, they're probably going to beat the B team to win the titles. I can almost guarantee it. You might as well write that down. But the Deleters of Worlds had been doing pretty decent, but they only held the titles for what, a couple months. Um, so I figured, yeah, they're waiting for this huge feud between Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt versus AOP for the tag titles, where AOP will probably come out the victor. So I never for a second thought the B team would actually win the match. While I'm not exactly opposed to it, the B team winning, I mean, is nice as a placeholder until AOP destroy them at what, SummerSlam maybe, probably. I mean, AOP's gonna get to the top real soon, and the B team. I love the B team. I really do. They're a really cool tag team. I love how they represent how they've come as Miz's entourage to um this tag team that's just kind of ransacked together trying to pull out wins, and they end up winning the tag team titles, much to even their own surprise. But it's going to be short-lived. I know that. I think AOP is probably going to beat them here either next pay-per-view or the pay-per-view after that. There's no way in hell they'll beat AOP. They might even lose their rematch. I doubt it, though. I don't think. Most of the time, the people who win the titles don't lose the rematch unless you're talking about Sasha and Charlotte's 150 title exchanges and stuff like that. But for the most part, that doesn't usually happen, and I don't see it happening here either. Um, then we had Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin, Constable Baron Corbin, which I'm going to tell you this right now. I have not watched an episode of Raw or SmackDown since the week before the Greatest Royal Rumble. I have seen a clip here and there. I have watched Seth Rollins' title defense matches because those are usually really good and worthwhile. But nothing really. And I don't seem to have missed very much. The only thing I seem to have missed is Baron Corbin becoming a constable, I guess. Which I was a little confused at this match. I guess Baron Corbin didn't like Finn Balor for whatever reason. Because Finn Balor's your generic babyface and he's your generic heel. So generic heel obviously hates generic babyface for no absolute reason other than that he's a generic heel. And thus he has to fight him. That's just what I seemed like this feud was. And I wasn't into it at all. The match was meh. Your average television match. Didn't really seem like a pay-per-view worthy match. And that's the other thing. I don't like how there were, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches on the main card and 2 matches on the pre-show. So 12 total matches over the course of, 4.5 hours. I mean, it's too many. It's too many matches. It really is. Like, that's just the thing, is that these matches don't work. And Baron Corbin versus Finn Balor was like a snooze fest. It's something you can see on Monday Night Raw. There's no reason that I should have to pay even $10 a month to watch that garbage. Then we had Asuka versus Carmella for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship with James Ellsworth hung over the cage, hung over the ring in a cage, because that always works. This is the thing. This is one of the things that you're gonna hear about this a lot as I continue talking about this pay-per-view. It's like the wrestlers themselves don't watch wrestling. It bugs me to such a degree. Why would you put someone in a shark cage on top, like hanging over the ring? What you should do is you should have like a pat down. You should ensure that they have no way of escaping before you do that in the first place. It's almost as though these people never been in this type of situation. Enzo Amore did it freaking whatever ago with Big Cass. That wasn't even that long ago. It bugs me that they don't they don't even get this. So obviously, James Ellsworth tries to get out of the cage. He's a doofus. Oh no, look at that. He tripped or he got caught in the cage, so he's hanging upside down. But it's not enough of a distraction for Carmella to push Asuka into the cage as they lowered it and bang her head and knock her out for the Carmella victory. Nothing really happened in this match, really. There was a little bit of grappling. Carmella left. James Ellsworth tried to escape the cage. Asuka tried to kill James Ellsworth, failed, and then Carmella won the match. It was pretty it was absolute garbage. It wasn't even like a match. It was trash. There was no development for anything. You know, I don't even know what the point of the match was, you know? It was just like this really awkward holdover. Like, nothing changed in this match at all. Like, besides it makes the fact, like, Asuka's an idiot. Like, seriously. Asuka's trying to win a title, and she immediately goes after James Ellsworth? Do you really think that she's that dumb? It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me that it's like these wrestlers don't watch wrestling or they don't want to win. Asuka would go after Carmella. The referee would count out Carmella as she's out there. At the very least, it should end in a count out victory for Asuka and Carmella retains the title. Whatever. But instead, the referee's like, oh my god, look, he's dangling out of the thing. I've totally forget about Asuka even being here. And about Carmella even being here. And Asuka's like, oh, look, he's dangling off the thing. I totally forget about Carmella being here. And then everyone else is like, why? You know? It's ridiculous. It's honestly ridiculous, especially considering that they're in an arena. So you hear all these people screaming at them and yelling because Carmella's outside the ring and obviously going to come up on Asuka, and Asuka's got her eyes completely fixated on James Ellsworth for some reason, even though that's not how you win the title. And knowing Asuka, who went on an undefeated streak for God knows how many days and retained an NXT Women's Championship until she had to relinquish it because she held on to it too long, it's so stupid. It bugs me to such a degree. If you want a short match with almost nothing happening, but actually develop something, you should look at the next match. Nakamura versus Jeff Hardy. Now, the match wasn't great, obviously. But it planted the seeds that it needed to plant. Well, I'm going to start off by saying Nakamura's interview in the pre-show, okay? They were talking to Nakamura, and Nakamura seemed like he couldn't hear what they were talking about, and then he responded in English. This is such an opportunity. They set it up so well, and I think anybody in their right mind would have appreciated this, okay? Just let Nakamura speak Japanese. It's his native language. He had the entire thing where he's talking about how he doesn't speak English, right? That was the whole joke that he had in the Styles feud. Him being a heel and pretending like he doesn't understand people when they're talking to him. Just make him speak Japanese. It's so simple. Give subtitles. You could easily do that because all of your segments are freaking scripted, right? Not to mention you could easily just give him a translator like you did the Great Khali or something. Who really cares? Whatever it is that you do, you could build on his character a little bit. What I did like is Nakamura is kind of a different example than Dolph Ziggler, okay? So he was a face for a while, and then he turned heel. And when he turned heel, his entire in-ring style and how he presented himself was completely different. Meanwhile, of course, Dolph Ziggler is the exact same piece of trash that he's been for a while since he started being a jobber, basically. But while Nakamura does use a couple of moves, you can see his pacing is different. He uses some variations of moves to make them a little bit more underhanded. And of course, the the low blow, which he utilized very well in this before the match started, where he walked around and as the referee was handing the title away, he hit the low blow on Jeff Hardy and he walked around as though nothing happened. And then Jeff Hardy, he knew Jeff Hardy was obviously going to have the bell rung because, he's a fighting champion, and then he hits the Kinshasa to win the match. That part I thought was really decent. But that's like this entire show. This entire show is, oh, that's cool. And then that was it. This is the layover to SummerSlam, the show. Like, in my opinion, they should just have pay-per-views like NXT does. They really should. There's no reason for this. There's this pay-per-view. There was none. Like, what, you want to just throw in some random matches with stipulations for no reason? Especially when most of them were trash. Like, anyway, but Randy Orton comes out and then he kicks Jeff Hardy right in the balls a lot harder than Nakamura did. Kind of setting up, I guess, a little mini feud, I guess. I don't know if they're both going to be heels in this feud or not. I'm kind of a little bit confused on exactly what's going on there. But either way, I'm a huge Randy Orton fan. I've been a Randy Orton fan since, way back, in '02 when he debuted. So I'm excited to see him back, but, it is what it is. Then we go on to probably one of the matches of the night. This one or the Rollins-Ziggler match. These were the two best matches on the card. So, Owens versus Strowman, there was a lot of good parts of this match, and I think most of it was Kevin Owens being amazing at the entertainment part of this business. In my opinion, Kevin Owens is the current wrestler that is the best at the entertainment aspect of the business. What he does when he's competing in the ring and his segments outside of the ring, those are so well done. It's absolutely incredible. It doesn't really happen that much to any sort of degree that he does it at. And Owens is just a blessing to the entertainment aspect of wrestling. This match was pretty decent, but the ending was absolutely terrific, in my opinion. It just kind of gets you the whole monster thing of Braun Strowman, tossing Kevin Owens off the top of the steel cage through a table and being like, "Hey, you win, congrats, dude," and leaving. It just shows again. But here's the biggest issue, okay? While I liked the ending, I also didn't like the ending, and let me tell you why I didn't like the ending. It's because it shows you how pointless these fucking matches are. Seriously. He's like, okay, you can win. There you go. What does it matter? What is it going to do to me? What is it going to do to you? It doesn't give anybody any damns who wins any of these freaking matches. One of the titles changed hands. Whoop-de freaking do, man. Whoop-de do. Two titles changed hands. My apologies. Two titles changed hands. But like again, in the grand scheme of things, what does it matter? What does this pay-per-view matter? And this match, the ending of this match proved that. Braun Strowman could have won, Braun Strowman could have lost. Who gives a shit? And him throwing Kevin Owens off and letting him win is exactly why that's a problem and why I don't like how many pay-per-views we have in wrestling. What you should do is you should do the NXT thing, because in my opinion, NXT does their pay-per-views amazingly well, and if you can't handle doing pay-per-views at that incredible of a level consistently, well, of course, the main roster isn't doing them at all right now. In fact, I don't know the last time I was like, that was a really, 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 really good main roster match. It has been a while since I've said that about any in particular main roster match. But again, the ending of this match, while it was funny, it was, Braun Strowman being Braun Strowman. the actual match itself was really good storytelling and whatnot. I really, really liked that. But the ending was both, good for the characters, I guess, but also bad because it really was a metaphor for this entire pay per view. And even last pay per view, and even the pay per view before that, really. I mean, it's just who cares if you win? Like it doesn't matter. Then we moved on to Daniel Bryan and Kane versus the Bludgeon Brothers. The Bludgeon Brothers attacked Kane and Daniel Bryan, injuring Kane, which led Daniel Bryan to try and compete with them by himself until Kane came out with the walking boot on, and he wasn't able to help Daniel Bryan enough to give him the victory. So in the end, the Bludgeon Brothers end up winning, and honestly, there was no surprise in this match. The match itself was your generic Daniel Bryan trying to win as the underdog and failing because it's a 2-on-1 handicap match. Which is funny that I say that it's generic because we've seen it about a billion times. If you go back to his entire thing with the freaking authority, you'll see how many times he was put in freaking handicap matches and stuff, and he tried to overcome the odds, and then he couldn't do it. It's the exact same type of thing. Obviously, he wasn't going to be able to win because he's put up against two people rather than one. It's that kind of thing. He did it against the Wyatt family, for example. That was a 3-on-1 handicap match. You know, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but whatever. The next match was Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley, and I have some issues with this match, okay? Whew. Okay, I am going to start this off by saying I am not at all a Roman Reigns fan. Not in the slightest, okay? I really, 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 really don't like Roman Reigns. And I have a lot of reasons why, and if you've heard me talk about Roman Reigns before, then you'll understand them. But the long story short of it, I don't like his promos. He really needs a lot of work on them, and most of his matches are absolute garbage. You guys can have your different opinions. That's totally fine. You can curse me out, whatever. That's totally fine. But the long story short of it is I don't like him, and I haven't liked him ever since the Shield broke up. Because just the way that he presented himself could have been a lot better. It's kind of like Sword Art Online. Pardon the anime reference. It's like there's a lot of people that like it. There's a lot of people that hate it. But in the end, I think there was just a lot of wasted potential. He could have been great. SAO could have been great, but they just could not execute on him. And that's exactly how I feel about it. It's nothing against him. I'm sure he's an awesome dude. I'm just saying that that's why I don't like him as a wrestler. But that being said, the ending of this match was atrocious. Bobby Lashley wins with a single spear. And let me tell you what, after watching this man, Roman Reigns, get put over despite losing, get put over with 6 F5s from the beast incarnate Brock Lesnar before finally losing the match. One spear. One spear is enough to take him down. One fucking spear. And that is what I have a problem with, is the inconsistencies WWE has is insane. I am okay with every once in a while there being a massive match, but the fact is he consistently fights Brock Lesnar at a pace where he takes anywhere from 4 to 6 F5s in a match. Consistently. If you go back and watch his other matches with Brock Lesnar, he takes 3, 4, 5, or 6 F5s in each of those matches before finally losing. But in Bobby Lashley can hit him one time with his own move, which looked kind of sloppy, and he wins the match? Like, that is completely stupid, and I feel like they had time. This pay-per-view was supposed to go for 4 hours. It was supposed to end at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And it finished about half an hour early. If they would have put that extra half an hour, made Roman Reigns kick out, even if you wanted Lashley to go over, you could still make it consistent. Because consistency is key in my opinion. But the fact is, one sloppy spear from Bobby Lashley was enough to put Roman Reigns away, and that just goes inconsistently with what has happened with Roman Reigns previously. And I don't think that that's okay. Braun Strowman kept looking strong despite, of course, losing the match, even though, he did that on purpose. But even when he loses matches, it's convincing. You've got matches where he lost because he took a finishing move from every single person on the roster. And you see the consistency every single time he's in a match. He's still consistently not going to completely go down on just a couple of attacks. And Lesnar's the same way. So why is Roman Reigns losing to one sloppy spear from Lashley? Sure, I'm glad that Bobby Lashley won. I really am. I think that Bobby Lashley has some potential there. I'm glad to see Roman Reigns out of the main event picture and kind of in that upper mid card tier where I think he belongs for the time being. I think they need to take some time, put him in some minor feuds, give him some time to develop his character a little bit more, maybe develop his promo skills, put him up against guys that, you know, have about the same level of mic skills, which they did against Bobby Lashley. Because Bobby Lashley, I'm not gonna lie, from what I saw in that promo that happened before the match, he is not very good at delivering his lines either. But either way, there was a lot to be desired in this matchup, and I mean, I guess what do I expect from a Roman Reigns match? To be honest, it's either a sling of finishing moves or it's kind of boring sloppiness. This one happened to just be the boring sloppiness one, but still. Then we move on to the third to last match of the night, Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax, and this was kind of a sorry excuse for an Extreme Rules match, in my opinion. The match starts off with Mickie James trying to help out Alexa Bliss, and she goes to hit Nia Jax a bunch of times with weapons, and then Nia Jax throws them into the ring. And then Mickie James and Alexa Bliss try and double team Natalya. Ronda Rousey comes in to save them. Ronda Rousey gets knocked out by a kendo stick. Nia Jax tries to finish Alexa Bliss off, but then with a steel chair, Mickie James comes in, and then they double team him, and then twist the Alexa Bliss's DDT there on the steel chair for the win. And I'm not gonna lie, okay, it looked like they had some trouble lifting the objects. The way that Mickie James hit Nia Jax in the back with that steel chair, it looked like she was really, really trying hard to do that, because it barely made a noise, and you could just see her arm like contort as she tried to lift that around and hit Nia Jax in the back. It looked like it hardly even hit Nia Jax, but Nia Jax played it up quite well. But they definitely could have used a little bit of help on that part, if you want my opinion. I don't know. That's my problem also with some of the female wrestlers that we have right now. There are wrestlers out there like Caitlyn and Dana Brooke that are like built like tanks, and those women should be in these Extreme Rules matches. But Alexa Bliss is built for beauty. She doesn't have a frame at all. You could see her struggling to throw things and use the steel chair. Like, it was almost painful to watch her and Mickie James try and attack Nia Jax with these objects. It was hard to watch. So this match really fell short in that regard. Obviously, Nia Jax had no problem. She's freaking huge. She can lift things pretty easily. But for whatever reason, I don't know what Alexa Bliss just doesn't lift or what, but I feel like if you're a wrestler, if that's what you want to do, you should be able to swing a steel chair at least decent speed and force to actually hurt somebody, potentially, a little bit, or at all. Anyway, surprise to me, the WWE Championship match was the second to last event of the evening as AJ Styles took on Rusev Day. And this match was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was probably your average pay-per-view match. There was a lot of good spots in this match. Rusev obviously ended up getting a little bit screwed by Aiden English. There was some decent storytelling there. Of course, Rusev played up that injury to his leg really, really well. I loved how he tried to get blood flowing back into the area by stomping it down on the ground a few times, trying to get it moving again, which ultimately ends up failing, and how AJ Styles gets to attack the leg a little bit more. They really, really did the storyline of this match quite well. There wasn't a lot of huge, crazy spots or anything. So in my opinion, like this was a pretty, decent wrestling match, your average, pay-per-view match, which for a WWE Championship match is a little lacking in my opinion. But the ending was pretty decent. I loved how Rusev took that splash from the top rope there. And then kicked out of that. So then AJ Styles went in and did the phenomenal forearm for the victory right after that. For a second there, I was kind of hoping that Rusev would push AJ Styles into the turnbuckle and make the match go a little bit longer. They certainly had time, considering the time they gave to this pay-per-view. But the match, all things considered, was pretty decent. And then we go into the main event of the evening, Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, this one, I'm not really sure if it's the match of the night. And by the way, I don't rate any of these matches at 4 stars. They're all below 4 stars, in my opinion. Not a single one of these matches hits 4 stars. And Rollins versus Ziggler disappointed me a lot. So the first fall in this match came 5 minutes in. 5 minutes and the roll-up cover by Rollins, and it's already 1-0. I was really disappointed by that, to be honest. These two can duke it out so well. I was really, really hoping that it would go 0-0 up until the last couple minutes. Then, they're worn out and you can get a couple of falls towards the end. But they decided to go with the 10-minute flurry where 7 pinfalls happened in a 10-minute period of time. Rollins would then get the cover with the curb stomp to go up 2-0. Before Drew McIntyre would intervene in the match and then attack Seth Rollins, causing the 3-0 lead. His attack would ultimately give Dolph Ziggler the advantage to tie things up 3-3, and then eventually get the ahead 4-3, all in a span of about 10 minutes. Until Seth Rollins eventually got to the point where he could get a pinfall with about 3 minutes to go in the match, where it would be up 4-4, and then time expires without a single other pinfall, just as Seth Rollins is trying to get the cover on Dolph Ziggler at the buzzer. Then Kurt Angle decides to restart the match, and Drew McIntyre intervenes and Dolph Ziggler gets the win within about a minute, not even a minute. And Kurt Angle says, you know what, that's okay. I said restart the match. That's totally cool. We'll have it end like that. That's definitely better than a tie, right? Again, doesn't seem like Kurt Angle, a freaking wrestler, watches wrestling. Because, no shit. Okay. I just find it funny that he comes out to make the announcement. The referee runs down to the ring. Drew McIntyre intervenes. Zigzag, 1, 2, 3. There's no way Kurt Angle made it more than 5 steps into the back before this happened. He couldn't have turned around and said, he was banned from ringside, restart the match without him, he's banned. Instead, Kurt Angle was like, okay. That's better than a tie. Pardon? Honestly, this entire pay-per-view sucked. Not that I expected otherwise, unfortunately. We got so many commercials for SummerSlam, but I'm here thinking about the main event of the summer as NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4 because that's going to be the event of the summer. Like it's hard. It's hard to believe that NXT is the same company because their storylines are a lot more believable. I want to ask you guys about the storylines of all of these feuds, okay? So Sin Cara versus Almas. Supposedly Sin Cara and Almas were friends before, and now he hates Sin Cara because Sin Cara's a face. Cool beans. New Day versus Sanity. Sanity interrupt them eating pancakes. Cool. Dope. Dope as fuck. The Leaders of Worlds versus the B Team. Bo Dallas is Bray Wyatt's brother. The rivalry. Balor versus Corbin. Corbin hates Balor because he's a generic face. Asuka versus Carmella. Asuka wants to win the title, and Carmella used James Ellsworth to help her out, so Asuka's mad. Nakamura versus Hardy was supposed to happen, but Nakamura got bitten by a dog, which kind of sucks. Owens versus Strowman. Owens is afraid of him, doing the literal opposite of his slogan, Fight Owens, fight. Team Hell No versus BB. Bludgeon Brothers were mad for some reason and tried to kill Daniel Bryan by himself. So Kane came out to try and help him, and then they just tried to kill him. Okay, cool beans. Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley were supposed to take part of a match to fight Brock Lesnar, but that match had to be canceled, and then they got pissed at each other for no reason. Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. This is just going off of, what happened previously, but apparently Natalia's on Nia Jax's team now because of reasons. That certainly makes sense. By the way, Nia Jax was being a evil, snide little you know what. Um, when Ronda Rousey was her opponent, but now all of a sudden she's the good guy again, which really confuses me, by the way. AJ Styles versus Rusev. Rusev won a match, so he fights Styles. That one's, your generic feud. And then Ziggler beat Rollins in a match. Rollins wants a rematch versus Ziggler, and he gets it at Extreme Rules. Ultimately, none of these feuds took about more than 3 seconds to conjure up, and none of them have any real backing behind them. It took more time to put together the Velveteen Dream versus Ricochet feud than all of these feuds combined. I have no doubt in my mind. More effort went into Ricochet's entrance than all of these matches combined in terms of the actual thought process behind them. The main roster is just getting exhausting. I sit here and I'm watching New Japan and I'm seeing the Bullet Club go to hell and all this shit going down. And each of these feuds, obviously you're gonna have exceptions. New Japan has its moments where it has these shitty feuds. I get it. Happens everywhere. But this entire card was awful. I have yet to see a New Japan or NXT event where every single match on the card is garbage. Okay, I'm not... Okay, there are some mediocre matches on this pay-per-view card. They're not literal garbage, you know what I mean. But there wasn't any that stood out too much. Like I said, Rollins and Ziggler versus and the Owens Strowman, I guess, were the match of the nights. But I guarantee you, the only thing I'll remember about this pay-per-view is Owens got thrown off the steel cage. And that's it, really. I don't think I'll remember anything else. You ask me in 3 months what happened at this pay-per-view, I'm going to say Owens got thrown off a steel cage. That's it. That's the only thing that happened in this entire pay-per-view. Because nothing else is memorable. Nobody cares about any of this other shit. But you talk about freaking the last NXT event. Holy shit. Well, Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa had this insane match. And then there was also, all these other matches. The NXT Tag Team Championship match was off the rocker. The NXT Women's Championship match was pretty decent. Shayna Baszler, retaining her title the way that she did against Nikki Cross with her laughing as she passed out. You know, you see how the difference? You see the difference? The Shayna Baszler match wasn't even like a super crazy 5-star match. It was a solid like 3.75 star match. It was pretty good. But it left an impression. It left something memorable. And on the entire 2-hour card, you only had what, five matches, and three of those matches were 4.5 to 5-star matches. 5 matches on a 2-hour card, and you have 10 on a 3.5-hour card on the main roster. There's a problem. In my opinion, they should have kept the brand split to the pay-per-views as well. Because you think about it, you put instead give yourself 2 hours of pay-per-view instead of 4, which they only use 3.5. But instead of a 4-hour pay-per-view, give yourself a 2-hour pay-per-view for a Raw pay-per-view and 2 hours for SmackDown, and then put these like 5 matches on the card. Bam, you got enough time. You could put out these crazy matches. NXT does it so well, and some of these matches, like the Andrade Santa Almas versus Johnny Gargano match from a few months ago, that was a normal match. There was no crazy stipulations, and it was still a 5-star match that was absolutely amazing to watch. You don't need all this crazy shit. But then you get it executed like that trash Jax versus Bliss feud. All right, I think that's probably not enough time talking about that, but I want to hear your comments in the comment section. If you guys are watching this, let me know your thoughts on what happened in Extreme Rules, what your thoughts are. You can go ahead and tell me I'm wrong. You can support whoever you want to support. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But that's about all the time I have. So make sure you hit that subscribe button for future content. I'm thinking about maybe doing live reactions to pay-per-views in the future potentially. I'm not really sure quite yet, but if that's something you guys want to do, then be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all next time.